think she knows how her privilege has gotten her to that point, and also like she's good at basketball, obviously. But like she understands her privilege is like what pushes her over the top in a sense. It reminds me a lot of you.
The WNBA's whole chaos revolves on Caitlin Clark. At a shocking pace, she is battling birds. Some are bone-jarring, while others are almost stunning. Additionally, referees are far too often disregarding the problem. But now that Clark has finally spoken out, he has revealed startling facts that may utterly upend the league. Is the WNBA now facing its most challenging challenges to date? Watch out. The narrative is far from over. Caitlin Clark was the rookie who dominated the WNBA. The moment Caitlin Clark became well-known, the WNBA seemed to be shocked awake. She did not run for attention. Rather, her presence made it hard to ignore her. The once-ignored squad became a national narrative once she joined with the Indiana Fever. Ticket sales are surging. The figures were incredible, goods was flying off the stores, and every sports feed was bursting at the seams with media attention. Over 6,000% more people used the league app. Over 300% more people signed up, and it was almost difficult to locate jerseys with her name. The Indiana Fever's franchise value tripled in addition to rising. Despite all of this success, Clark's season ended in disappointment rather than victory. After months of harsh fouls, no protection, and the type of deliberate violence that would make any rookie pause, she is definitely out. It was not because she could not bear the pressure, her numbers showed otherwise, but rather because the league that profited most from her star power did not appear to be able to protect her from repeated blows. Week after week, fans watched as she underwent devastating contact that was mostly uncontrolled. This was confusing to many. You would think the WNBA would safeguard its greatest attraction and perhaps even center the season on her. She was not just beneficial to the Fever, after all. She was beneficial to the league overall. Rather, her ascent seemed to set off something very else. Tension. Clark unintentionally entered a minefield of politics, pride, and image by outperforming and outshining some of the league's most well-known talents, including three-time MVP A. Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces. Shortly after Clark was selected, A. Wilson, an indisputable force in the WNBA, openly addressed the attention she was getting. Wilson used cautious language, but the underlying meaning was obvious. Veterans were taking note of Clark's unexpected supremacy and the media buzz around her. And that change in focus seemed like an imposition to some. Discussions concerning racism, favoritism, and whether the WNBA was really appreciating Clark's influence or subtly disapproving of it soon spread off the court. That drama was not something that Clark herself desired. She arrived, performed to the best of her abilities, and gave highlight after highlight. But the rumors became louder with each sold-out venue and buzzer beater. Was the WNBA prepared for this level of focus? Or was it frantically trying to strike a balance between the new golden goose and the old guard? There is more to this tragedy than merely Clark's marginalization. It is that she is leaving at a time when her influence is at its highest, when she might have fostered, honored, and safeguarded the vitality she gave to women's basketball. Rather, her first season concluded in a haze of hypothetical scenarios and unanswered concerns about whether the league mistreated the athlete who is changing its narrative. However, what really transpired with the youngster who suffered the most damage throughout the match? Continue to observe. The rookie who was most severely hit throughout the game. She is moving away. No one reads that headline. Anticipated. Behind it, there are even louder murmurs. She has only just started. Not because she has outlived her prime. This season, her first year, no less, has tested her body and patience to the very limit, not because she has lost her edge. Her game is still explosive. It goes beyond simple fatigue from the spotlight. It is the constant battering, the bruises, and the unwavering sense that the court has become a battleground. This is the part that leaves many speechless. She received 17% of the league's flagrant and hard fouls during the 2024 WNBA season. Almost one-fifth of the most vicious hits in professional women's basketball were taken by one player. Give it some thought. The next closest player suffered more than twice as much. Double. Can anybody still refer to it as coincidence at that point? Or is it something far more intentional? These were not your typical fouls or pimples. We are talking about airborne collisions that should take place on a rugby field rather than on hardwood, sending players falling blindside shoulder checks. Some fans make jokes about how the slow-motion replays resemble action movie sequences. The stunts in the films are choreographed, which makes a difference. The hits are very real here. The refereeing, or lack thereof, is another issue. Videos that went viral show her taking 3 or 4 fouls in a single possession with no whistle blown, just stillness and crickets, as if the referees had all agreed to let her persevere, even after the contact went from being competitive to hazardous. That is what hurts the most for a lot of people. Because you would anticipate protection for your best young player in any other elite sports league. Here, however, not a single opposition player received a suspension for any of it despite the continuous collision. They cautioned some. The majority left without even paying a fee. She was left to prepare for the following game and apply ice to her injuries in the meantime. The stress is as intense off the court. There are the insults uttered while the cameras are filming, the side comments captured on hot microphones, and the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, comments made by other players. It is private. For her fans, at least, that is how it seems. Additionally, the mood only grows stronger as racial and favoritism-related concerns start to come up. However, it is not simply the birds that make this scenario so compelling. The most important question is why. Why would the league permit such treatment of a single player, particularly one who is drawing so much attention to the game? Is it bitterness at her quick ascent? Is this a deliberate attempt to see how resilient she is? Or is it just an unsightly mistake that got out of hand? The outcome is the same regardless of the cause. A young star quitting due to the toll of unrelenting, unregulated hits rather than a lack of skill. One fact becomes unavoidable when viewers watch the video again and analyze every angle. She is competing against the system rather than merely her rivals. However, what secret reality underlies this? Is it just foul play or something far darker? Keep in touch. Is it foul play or anything more serious? Buzzer beaters, highlight videos, and an exciting basketball season were all part of the plan. However, the WNBA found itself enmeshed in an unavoidable maelstrom midway between the whistles and the thunderous spectators. At the heart of it all was rookie Caitlin Clark, who in less than a year transformed from a promising rookie to the league's most divisive figure. Clark's ascent began as soon as she on the court. Even the most seasoned veterans never see the pace at which endorsements, national media attention, and prime-time slots arrive. It was well-deserved credit for exceptional skill, according to some. For others, it served as a stinging reminder of years of hard work without the same chances. Raw, unadulterated emotions started to surface. Furthermore, it is difficult to deny that race plays a part, according to Aya Wilson, a 3-time MVP and one of the league's most reputable voices. She did not sugarcoat it. On a live microphone, she said it clearly. It is enraging to deny that race has a role. A layer of the discussion that had been smoldering for months was revealed by that one phrase. Clark never made reference to race, never claimed to be a victim, and never made accusations in public. However, everything changed as soon as she became the league's spokesperson. The headlines were not the only source of anxiety. On the court, that is. The murmurs became accusations as hard fouls started to accumulate. Was this something much more intimate, or was it just difficult basketball? The frustration made sense to several seasoned Black players. Despite years of hard work and great statistics, they never had the same level of national recognition or sponsorship agreements. Now that a white rookie was staring at her, she could not conceal her hatred. However, the discourse shifts when that animosity turns into what seems and feels like deliberate on-court reprisals. Sophie Cunningham, a teammate of Clark's, did not hold back when criticizing the league for failing to safeguard its star. Furthermore, she was not discussing innocuous trash talk or casual bumps. We are talking about aggressive plays that conflate danger and defense, weekly hits, and the perception that executives and authorities are ignoring these issues. That is not only a component of the game. That is an issue. While Clark's silence on the subject simply served to highlight the tension, Wilson's open comments exposed the racial and cultural undertones. She seems committed to playing with her head down. However, Every elbow she received was a part of a larger narrative. She was suddenly the focal point of decades of dissatisfaction with respect, acknowledgement, and representation in women's basketball, whether she liked it or not. This is the query that fans continue to discuss long after the final bell. Is Caitlin Clark only a victim of too aggressive play? Or is she bearing the burden of a league's unsolved problems? Whatever the response, one thing is for sure. This is no longer simply about basketball. The actual game may be taking place well beyond the scoreboard as the season continues. However, what happens when the renowned Michael Jordan effect takes a surprising turn? Keep checking back to find out. The Michael Jordan effect gone awry. Not all superstars are aware that they will have to deal with more than just the game when they on the court. In 2021, Caitlin Clark stormed into the WNBA, breaking rookie marketing records and enthralling fans throughout the country. She was more than a performer. For a league that many had forgotten existed, she came to represent enthusiasm, vigor, and optimism. However, what ought to have been a triumphant tale has taken a more sinister and convoluted turn. From the start, Clark's skill attracted notice, which led to constant targeting on the court. Analysts and fans alike saw it right away. The manner in which she was fouled and the way officials seemed to let others to get away with actions that would be unimaginable against any other elite athlete. Whispers of unfairness have developed into a full-fledged conversation by 2023. This has nothing to do with a single missed call or a poor performance. It was a worrying trend that kept happening. When observers started contrasting her treatment with that of other league stars, the disparity was obvious. Not because of anything she did wrong, but just because she was at the top of her game, Caitlin Clark was being pushed, pummeling, and ignored. Legal experts refer to it as classic hostile work environment area. Shouted insults and overt threats are not considered forms of harassment under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. It suffices to treat someone unfairly, dehumanizingly, and repeatedly. In Clark's instance, the figures are self-evident. There are twice as many blatant fouls, more combative physical play, and a leadership shrug. Without holding back, the Wall Street Journal warned the WNBA that a civil rights case could already be on the verge of explosion. They characterized it as a league disregarding its most important asset, seeing her genius as a public relations problem rather than a victory. Do you recall the 1993 Harris versus Forklift Systems case? It was evident in that historic instance. You do not need insults or blows to the face in a hostile workplace. Degrading behavior on a regular basis is sufficient. Additionally, as shown in the Tossenberry case involving the Texas Department of Community Affairs, the burden of proof of uneven treatment moves on the employer. The practice of targeting Clark on the court meets these requirements by any lawful standard. However, the human narrative is beyond the laws. Clark will miss the season due to injury and frustration. She entered the game to play basketball, advance the sport, and motivate millions of people. Now, she must contend with the overwhelming weight of institutional and physical pressure. Fans can only wonder why the league permits this to go on. Is this an indication of prejudice in the leadership or a structural inability to safeguard its most influential star? One thing is evident while the argument rages. The path of Caitlin Clark is more than simply the ascent of a rookie. When it dares to shine in a league that has long needed a hero, it shines a light on responsibility, justice, and the struggle to preserve excellence. However, what startling facts about Caitlin Clark's storm are reporters exposing? Keep your eyes fixed on your screen. Journalists discuss the controversy surrounding Caitlin Clark. Every rookie season involves more than just picking up the basics. This year has been like a high-stakes thriller, equal parts victory and upheaval for Indiana University guard Caitlin Clark, who has already established herself as one of the most marketable characters in women's basketball. Basketball has not been the only aspect of her journey. It has included navigating a league where politics, skill, and image collide in front of the public. Rebecca Lobo, an ESPN commentator, recently publicly noted what many fans had previously seen. Almost all of Clark's strong contact may have been considered a foul. The whistles did not, however, sound. The current teammate of Clark, Sophie Cunningham, said that when she was a player for Phoenix, her squad really spoke about how rough they would be with Clark. Sophie now claims that the targeting has gone too far, even though she is standing next to her in the same locker room. Should. It says volumes when your own colleague believes you are being singled out. It is not just about birds, however. Clark received an astounding 1.29 million All-Star votes earlier this year, a record that shook the league. Nevertheless, in player vote, she came in 7th place among guards. Dick Vitale described it as unbridled envy without holding back, claiming that a lot of players have failed to recognize the contributions Clark has already made to the league. TV ratings, sold-out venues, increased pay, and chartered planes. Another, more subtle dialogue has been taking place under the surface. In a league where not all celebrities have such characteristics, Clark stands out due to her color, sexual orientation, and marketability. Resentment is there whether it is expressed publicly or kept in private. Former WNBA player Candace Wiggins once said that since she was gay, she was harassed out of the league. Some people cannot help but wonder whether Clark is now dealing with her own version of that trauma, even if the circumstances are not the same. Not just for her skill as a player, but also for her personality. At this point, the tale ceases to be just about athletics. Whispers enter the realm of civil rights when they become suggestive of possible discrimination. The stakes go far beyond the basketball floor, as reports indicate that the Department of Justice has taken note. This makes it hard to overlook the league's leadership silence, particularly that of Commissioner Kathy Angelbert. Her responsibilities extend beyond corporate expansion. It is concerning, protecting the most important players in the league. However, Clark takes hits game after game, and the official reaction is non-existent. The questions continue to pile up for fans. Is this just a feature of the sport's physical nature? Or is it something far more specific and intimate? Is the league's potential for development being overshadowed by unresolved internal tensions? And if that is the true, how long can the leadership keep quiet before the storm gets out of control? Scoring points is not the only aspect of Caitlin Clark's tale. It is about the clash of power, fame, and identity in a league that is attempting to establish itself in the public eye. And one thing is clear as the season progresses. It is that the true struggle is taking place behind closed doors rather than between the baselines. What unanticipated storm, however, is going to rock the WNBA to its foundation? Stay with us and discover. Nobody anticipated the WNBA storm. Basketball is meant to be an exciting, skill-based, and cooperative sport. For Caitlin Clark, however, the court has evolved into a platform for something much more significant: politics, conflict, and tension. The WNBA's biggest star found herself in the middle of a storm in 2025 that was impossible for a highlight reel to depict. Imagine ranking 9th among guards on the player ballot after smashing fan voting records with 1.29 million All-Star votes. Imagine being in the lead in both ticket sales and viewership while having to make choices that infuriate supporters. The anticipated All-Star game will be A. Instead, viewership fell almost 55% during the league-wide celebration. Owners noticed, fans noticed, and all of a sudden legislators did too. Clark's predicament presents a far more concerning image beyond the headlines. Players' leaked remarks and internal gossip indicate that she has been singled out by the court referees, who are purportedly told to let them to play even if it means Clark gets wounded. While A.A. Wilson acknowledged that the situation infuriated her, Sophie Cunningham openly declared that Clark was not receiving protection. These were not exaggerations or murmurs. These remarks were spoken in public on video, exposing a hostile setting. Workplace rights, equity, and racial issues begin to surface in this setting. Does this contradict her right to a workplace that is safe and friendly? Could the federal government intervene? In fact, the Labor Department, the Department of Justice, and even Congress have started questioning Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, with Senator Jim Banks writing a formal, demanding letter. All of a sudden, this is more than simply a sports tale. It is a financial, political, and legal mess all at once. The Olympic snub is another issue. Outrage and conjecture resulted from the USA team's exclusion of the player who is pushing league expansion and fan involvement. In these conditions, why would the league ignore its own star? Opponents get away with things they would not do to others, according to Clark, who criticized the double standards. She had to deal with egregious fouls, elbows, and crashes on the floor while the officials, who guarded the game, ignored her manner. The journalists mostly kept quiet off the court. No in-depth analyses of what millions of fans already felt, no network specials, and no hefty articles. There was a problem. Sheila Johnson said that other players should have received more attention, and even league owners joined the criticism. A perplexing remark from someone who gains from Clark's immense appeal. It is impossible to overestimate the emotional cost of all of this. It goes beyond squandered chances for a player of Clark's skill and personality. It has to do with being ensnared in a system that does not appear to want to defend its brightest star. This is the question that fans are posing. How is it possible for a single player to lead a league while encountering such opposition? What is really going on behind the scenes? And may these disputes finally make the WNBA face hard realities? As the narrative progresses, it becomes evident that Caitlin Clark is facing challenges outside of the court. She is fighting a maelstrom that goes much beyond basketball. But why, in your opinion, did Caitlin Clark finally come up after the league's startling ultimatum? What may it signify for the WNBA? We want to know what you think.